welcome to the daily news analysis of Next IAS. Today we will discuss 4 prelims article and 1 mains article. Now let us try to understand what are these articles. First article is on the return of the Sunita Williams. Second article is on the APAAR ID. Third article is on the government spending on the health, and fourth one is squad, right? The fifth article is related to the India-New Zealand relation, because New Zealand Prime Minister is in India and we are discussing them with multiple things. Now let us start with the first article, which pertains to the return of Sunita Williams, right? What is the news all about? So it came into the Hindu, the Indian Express and other key news channels, right? It's very important to know because it's the relevance for the science and technology, right? So what is the backdrop of the news? So NASA's astronauts stranded in space for 9 months returned to the Earth by SpaceX Dragon. Okay. So 9 months is also coinciding with the gestation period of the humans. So it's very coincidence as well, right? Now let us understand why they trapped into the space and how they came back, right? Now let us try to understand the reason behind the stranded astronauts, right? You can see the people are stranded. What happened? We'll go with the timeline. So what happened on the June 5th, 2024, Boeing Starliner crew flight test mission took NASA astronaut Barry Wilmore, who is the commander of the entire mission, and Sunita Williams, who is to suppose the astronaut in its 71th expedition, docked in the International Space Station that we call ISS, right? The docking was quite successful, right? And the mission day, intended days of mission were only of the 8 days. But what happened, due to the technical issues and other malfunction, they were stranded for more than 9 months, and now yesterday only they returned back to the Earth, right? That's why it's very important to understand what went wrong and what is the current status. Now when you trapped in the space, it led to the significant impact on human body due to the impact of the microgravity. What is it? So microgravity is basically a condition in which objects appear to be weightless. You might be traveling on lifts and the free fall of the lift at times will give you a feeling of the microgravity when you feel like weightlessness in yourself, right? And it is experienced in very weak gravitational force. It occurs when an object or person is in free fall. Like I've said, when you fall, when a lift falls, right? Or when you do the bungee jumping, you might have felt the microgravity, right? And what is the impact of the microgravity on the human health? It lead to the muscle atrophy, means it lead to the weakness in the muscles. Not only that, there are significant shift in the fluid in the human body, and you may an astronaut may feel puffness in her or his face, right? Not only that, it also may lead to the bone loss, because gravity keeps our bone strong, and in the free gravity situation we are not using our bones much. That's why it led to the reduction in the bone density. Also it may lead to the disorientation. That's why the Sunita Williams and the commander will have to go for rehabilitation for a significant period of the time, right? You might have seen the astronaut returning from the International Space Station are unable to even stand, right, because of all these issues. I'm giving you just to understand how microgravity and how difficult it was for the Sunita Williams to stay in the space for more than 9 months, right? Anyways, you'll have to understand about the ISS as well. What is ISS? So basically it is in operation since last 25 years. In 1993, actually started in 1984, and it came into force in 1993 around, right? And it is the basically station, like you go towards a railway station, it is like space station, right, where astronauts do various experiment. The current experiment being done by the Sunita Williams, I have stated, was the 71st expedition, and she was doing a research on the botany, space botany, right? For example, how few plants act in this space. So whatever time she spent in the ISS, she was not enjoying the thing, but she was basically doing research. Now if I talk about the International Space Station, so basically it's a very comfortable kind of the I will rather say house, covering 6 bedroom. I am giving you just a spice of information. There are gym in the International Space Station. There are 2 bathroom in the International Space Station. There are oxygen recycling machine, basically which recycle oxygen, right? And there are urine recycle machine which basically recycle urine and make it potable water. It means it's a comfortable, not a luxury one, but a very comfortable place to live with. Still, I have already said why living in space can be dangerous to human, because of the bone density loss or disorientation and all these things, right? Now the thing is, what went wrong with the Starliner spacecraft, why it was stranded, why they were stranded. So basically there basically technical reason behind it. First and primemost reason was the leak of the helium gas, right? So what is helium gas? So helium gas is an inert gas which is used as a fuel while docking the spacecraft into ISS, that is the International Space Station. And it was found that there were at least 4 helium leaks which led to the malfunction in the thrusters. What are the thrusters? Thrusters are devices which provide thrust to any spacecraft. And in the thrusters as well, 5 out of 28 thrusters were defunct while docking, and it led to the basically a big issue while returning, because we have seen the sad demise of Kalpana Chawla, right? So just to avoid such situation, the return of these astronauts were basically delayed by 9 months, right? Also, what was happening, their thrusters were overheating, and if there is overheating, Columbia like situation can occur, and it may result into death of the astronauts, very talented one and of Indian origin as well. Also, they were heating due to direct sunlight, right? So these were the reason, that's why they were trapped into the space. Now when we talked about the human spacecraft, so you might be aware of the India's famous Gaganyaan. We are also having one Gaganyaan. What is Gaganyaan? So it will be India's first human spacecraft, and you might have heard about Vyomitra, which will be using a prototype, right? A doll-like structure will be first tested, so that we can avoid any human loss while doing the such kind of the experiment. A similar thing was done by the NASA, and NASA started its commercial crew program in 2011, and in 2012 it invited tender from various companies, and 2 companies were selected. First was SpaceX of famous Elon Musk, and second was the Boeing, of which these people were being used, right? So Boeing's Starliner was being used, and Boeing was in news for its Boeing 737 aircraft as well, and it was quite prone to the accident. We have seen multiple accidents. That's why the credibility of Boeing is now in big question. Also in 2020, it is the SpaceX which launched first crew mission for the NASA, and is the first company of the USA, private company of USA, to launch any human spacecraft. And I have already given the example of the Gaganyaan. We are also supposed to launch our Gaganyaan, that is the human space mission, in next few months, right? Now this is all about the SpaceX Dragon. Basically it can contain 7 members in it, right? And it's a very comfortable, a very unique kind of the spacecraft that is being used to ferry the passenger as well as the cargo from the International Space Station to the Earth and to and fro. So I hope the things are clear to you, why they were stranded, what was the reason, and how they could be brought back. Now attempt the question that is given in the screen. Hope you will be able to attempt. Thank you. Now let us move to the second news. It is related to the APAAR ID, and the news came into the Hindu in the explained section. You can see, right? And it is relevant for the government scheme and initiative of the UPSC syllabus. That's why we are studying. So what is the background of this news? What happened? The activists and parents are worried about the rapid push by the schools to generate the APAAR ID. That is especially true for the CBSE schools and the UP related schools. That is written in the news, right? Now before going towards what is all issue about, let us try to understand what is APAAR all about. So APAAR is like Aadhaar, right? What is it? It is like Aadhaar, and it is basically Aadhaar of student, if you have to simplify just for understanding. And APAAR stands for Automated Permanent Academic Account Registry. So what is it? It is Permanent Academic Repository, right? And which is a 12-digit unique number for the students of India, and designed to consolidate their academic as well as extracurricular records. Those who have filled the UPSC prelims form, you might have felt there are so much document to scan and to update into the database or the OTR. Now if the APAAR is in the place, it will take lesser time. So that is, I am giving you just context just to understand and just to make it more relevant for understanding. And it is in sync with the our oneness theme, that is one nation, one election, one nation, one ration card. In accordance with that, there will be one nation, one student card initiative. Hope it is clear to you, right? And who is the concerned ministry related to the APAAR ID? We can see Ministry of Education. Which is the ministry? Ministry of Education. Now let us try to understand the background when why it came into the picture. So it came into the picture with the alignment of the National Education Policy, which was in news because of the 3-language formula recently, right? And the NCRF, which is NCRF, that is the National Framework Curriculum Framework developed by the School Education, UGC, Higher Educations, and the Ministry of Education. That is the about the National Curriculum Framework, right? And it called for the Automated Permanent Academic Account Registry, right? And APAAR ID is linked to the Aadhaar and stored in the DigiLocker. There are multiple benefits a student get. For example, scholarship. For example, if you want to apply for the Inspire scholarship, so they will fetch the information. Or if you want to apply in the graduation or in the post graduation, only APAAR ID will be sufficient to understand about your academic or other records. You don't need to have submit multiple documents for the verification purpose. That is the precise versus. What is DigiLocker? You might be knowing. DigiLocker is basically what? A repository, a cloud based platform where you can put all the documents in a very secure platform. That is all about the DigiLocker. Now let us try to understand how APAAR works. It is very important to understand the working mechanism of the APAAR. What happens? There are multiple stakeholders in generating the data related to APAAR. Who are those stakeholders? There is a school which use APAAR to manage the record of the students. For example, what is the class, what is the demographic profile, what is the score of a student. These are maintained by whom? Schools, right? What do higher education and skill institute do? These institute assess the APAAR for the student record. For example, if you have to apply for a higher education institute for the PhD or for the post graduation, the data fed by the schools will be fetched by whom? Higher education institution for the verification purposes. What benefit student got? Students use APAAR to store and retrieve their academic record. For example, if you lost your 10th class document, right, and you are in need of the same, it happens on multiple occasions, right? you can just access to the DigiLocker and you can get in the APAAR ID. You will be tension free, right? That is the purpose as well, right? Just to restore the document. Also, what higher education and skill industry will do, they will verify academic data through the APAAR for the admissions. Again, if you want to take the admission, they will verify. That is the working mechanism of the APAAR. Now, what are the benefits to the student? A, it provides you unified identity. Your identity can't be forced. Your identity will be quite unique to you, and you will be identified by your APAAR ID, which is very beneficial, right? It will also streamline record, because it will lead to the simplification of record keeping at all stakeholders, be it the school, be it the higher education institution, or any institution like UPSC or otherwise, right? Also, it will provide a digital repository we have discussed. Also, it will give you academic mobility. How? By facilitating smooth transition between the educational levels. For example, from the 10 to 11, from the 11 to 12, from 12 to graduation, and graduation to post graduation. The smooth transition will be there. You don't have to carry the document for verification and all the process. Also, it will provide a secure platform and your data will be secured. No one can lead to the theft of your data. Now, what are the issues? There are apprehensions. Why there are protests against such kind of the data collection by the various institutions? So, as per the section 9 subclause 3 of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, it prohibits tracking or behavior monitoring of children or targeted advertisement directed to children by any entity. If your data is stored on a cloud, it can be misused as well by various stakeholders, right, having intentions, right? It can be leaked easily. That are the apprehensions, and children are vulnerable to the data leak. That should not be there. Also, parents need to have the option. Few schools are making it mandatory. For example, even Aadhaar is not mandatory but to get the benefit, for example, DBT, you will have to have the Aadhaar. The similar will be happen with the APAAR. That's why there are apprehensions on the APAAR ID. That's all on the APAAR. Now, let us try to solve the practice question which is visible in your screen. Hope you will be able to solve this question. Now, let us move to the third news, which is again very interesting, which is a trend related to the increase in the government spending in terms of the healthcare, right? And its relevance lies with the either Indian economy or health related aspect, right? Or even the government scheme, you can quote such things. The data given by the government is quite important. You will have to look for the various data, right? What happens? So, recently we know the parliament session is going on, and in that background, Health Minister of India, that is Adarniya JP Nadda ji, highlighted increased healthcare spending and a focus on comprehensive healthcare in India, right? So, this is news came into both Indian Express as well as the Hindu news, right? Now, let us try to understand more about the news. What happens as per the official data, under the current government's regime, healthcare expenditure has increased 1.84 of the GDP. Very important data. What is the healthcare expenditure? So, 1.84 of the entire GDP, right? And what is the target? Intended target is 2.5%, which is very decent for a developing country like India, right? We are a middle economy and it's quite decent spending if you talk about. Although, if you go to trends towards the expenditure on the health and education, so I feel it is a declining trend, because if you see the pink graph, you will see in 2019-20 it was 2.3%, and it came to the 1.9% in 2024-2025. However, things are supposed to be in good figure in coming years. That is the expectation. And you can also compare the education spending on the government, which is also decreasing. Although neither the decrease in terms of the health is steady, because you can see it is not steady, because this year it increased, neither the expenditure on the education is steady. It is declining or increasing. So, UPSC generally asks question, since last 10 years expenditure on the health is steadily increasing. What will the answer? Incorrect. Since last 10 years expenditure on the education is steadily decreasing. It is also incorrect, because sometimes it is increasing, it is decreasing. You will have to look for the data on it, right? And you will have to understand, as of the latest data, that is of the December 2024, Indian healthcare sector is one of the India's largest employer, as it employs a total of 7.5 million people, which is huge given the capacity of engagement, right? Also, India's public expenditure on the healthcare touched 1.9% of the GDP in financial year 2024, right? Anyways, you will have to also understand what is the very important fact given here, that the doctor to population ratio in India is 1:854, and what should be the recommended? So recommended is quite up. We will have to understand this thing as well. We will have to increase the patient to doctor ratio in India as well, as per the WHO estimate, right? So it is also to be noted that India's per capita health expense jumped 82% in last decade. That is, we call out of pocket expenditure, right? So it is increasing steadily. Hence, what we will have to do? We will have to take care of the health. We will have to look for the insurance, and we will have to work accordingly. So what government is doing in order to protect the health of its citizen, which is considered quite important. There are various schemes. For example, National Digital Health Mission, which was started in 2022. There is Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana 2018. It was started. National Health Policy, it was started in 2017. Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana, it was also very important scheme, insurance scheme. And the Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Yojana, right? It provides medicines, pharmaceutical medicine is very cost effective rate. These are the steps taken by the government in recent time. Now attempt the question which is visible in the screen. Hope you will be able to do it. Next topic is related to the squad, and it will come under the international relations. What happens? We know that the 10th version of Raisina dialogues are going on. Accordingly, there are multiple dignitaries giving lectures, delivering their thoughts on Raisina dialogue, which is a forum started by ORF. In this time, the frontline is also supporting this initiative. This is basically like information sharing kind of the mechanism of the think tanks and various personality. In that backdrop only, it is said that the general of Philippines, one general is General Brownwer, he said that India and South Africa should join the squad. So you might heard about the word quad, but there is a parallel organization, or there is a similar organization that we call squad. Now let us try to understand what is squad. Squad is basically a mini-lateral grouping in Indo-Pacific region, right? What is it? It's a mini-lateral, not bilateral, very small group of the, like the AUKUS, like quad, it is mini-lateral group, right? What are its members? Members are USA, Australia, Philippines and Japan. Now you can see the members of the quad. It is USA, Australia, India and Japan. Here it is the Philippines, which is odd one out, and in the quad it is India, right? So that's why Philippines or Filipino government is asking or requesting India to join the quad. Now what is the nature of the quad? It is not a military organization. However, in recent time, after Trump took the oath, he called it military organization as well, right? So the status of the quad is not clear as of now. What is the origin of the squad? It basically started in 2023, and its purpose is to ensure freedom of navigation, regional stability, counter Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific, particularly into South China Sea. You can see the Philippines is the part and parcel of the South China Sea, and they are quite frustrated with the military activities of the China. That's why they have came into this kind of the grouping. So for prelims purpose, this is very important to understand such kind of the grouping. The question can be asked verbatim. Now a question is given in the screen. You can attempt the question and let me know the answers of it. Thank you. Now let us start the mains article, which is related to the India-New Zealand relation. What is the context of it? So basically, New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon is visiting India as a chief guest of 10th year of the Raisina dialogue. It's a very important event, and that's why the India-New Zealand relation is in news, right? Now let us try to understand the context of it. It is quite relevant for the international relation, and it is overlapping with the prelims as well as the mains syllabus. So you can have a few idea about the prelims aspect as well as the mains aspect. Let us try to discuss. As discussed, this Prime Minister is in India on the invitation of Prime Minister Modi, right? We can see both are having conversation. Now, what is the background of these high level visits? So you might be aware of the tariff war that is going on, right, between the started by basically USA, we can say, in recent times, and going on various levels, and turbocharged by the terms tariff war and as well as the threatened by Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. New Zealand is looking for the new partner in this region, and India, given its strong democratic credential, demographic dividend and development oriented mindset, is best suitable candidate for the New Zealand's aspiration in this regard. That's why we need to understand the various aspects of the India-New Zealand relation, and what are the convergence between the India-New Zealand relation, and what are the conflict area between the India-New Zealand relation, and what are the cooperation we can do in terms of the India-New Zealand relation. So before discussing the India-New Zealand relation, I would like to give you, there are 5 Ds I would like to share with you today, and there are few Cs that is related to the relation of New Zealand. Now coming to the Ds of India-New Zealand relation, first and foremost importance should be given to the democracy. So basically what is the condition that India as well as New Zealand both were part of British colony, right, and almost both the countries got the independence on the same time. This is also one of the important aspect, and we both follow parliamentary form of the government, right? Hence we share a common thread of the democracy. We have recognized the relation with the New Zealand in 1950s with the opening of the Trade Commission, which was basically upgraded to the High Commission. Now what is High Commission? The diplomats in the Commonwealth of Nations are known as the High Commissioner, or otherwise they are known as the ambassador. That is the differentiation I would like to reiterate, right? Now we have discussed, you got the fair idea of the democratic credential between both the countries. We will discuss the diaspora, which is in very important plank of the Indian democratic outreach, and in which we will have to understand the migration from India to the New Zealand is not new. It is started in 80s, 90s only, right? It's very old, and most of those migrants are dominated by the Gujarati as well as the Punjabi people, right? And you will be amazed to know that almost 6% of the New Zealand population consists of the Indian citizen, Indian origin people, which is a very huge number, right? And our diaspora is quite diverse as well. It is not restricted to certain regional patches. It is quite diverse. Now, celebrating Holi by the current Prime Minister went viral quite a few days back. Holi was celebrated with all pomp, and we can see the image of the New Zealand Prime Minister celebrating the Holi, which shows India's cultural and soft power diplomacy in this aspect, right? Now when we talk about the third D, that is the development, so we'll have to discuss about the trade relation between the New Zealand and India, right? So let us try to give an idea on the ongoing trade relations. So the total trade value between India and New Zealand in India in 2013, 23, 24 was US dollar 1.75 billion, and India was having trade surplus with this country, right? Also we export like pharma, mechanical machinery, pearls, precious stone and metal to the New Zealand. And what we import from the New Zealand, it is the wool, iron and steel, fruit, nuts and aluminium. And both the countries are undergoing the free trade talk, which was stalled a few years back because of few issues between few apprehension raised by the Indian side as well as New Zealand side. However, we are resuming the trade ties, right? Also, India's sheep and farming sector was revamped with the help of the New Zealand, which is very pleasing thing to know, right? Also, there is authorized economic operation mutual recognition agreement under the aegis of the Customs Cooperation Agreement, which we call CCA, which was signed in 2014 between both the countries. Very important fact to know about, right? Now, we will discuss or switch to the next D of the relation between the India and New Zealand, that is the defense. Now, what happens recently, the Cook Island, which is in the backyard of the New Zealand, had a negotiation or comprehensive security dialogue with the China, which irked New Zealand badly. Not only that, few Chinese ships did live firing in the Indo-Pacific region near coast of the New Zealand. Given these conditions, it is but obvious for the New Zealand to explore new partners, including security partner in this region, right? And that's why we need to strengthen, and New Zealand is looking to strengthen the maritime cooperation with the India, which is quite important for the free, fair and open navigation, right? Accordingly, we both are parties of UNCLOS, that is the United Nations Convention on the Law of Open Sea, which deals with the free and fair access to the sea resources, and China is major hindering block. So enemy's friend or friend's enemy is common enemy. That is the common dictum and understanding. Accordingly, we both share the same apprehension vis-a-vis China, right? Now, the fifth D of India-New Zealand relation is basically disaster management. We will have to understand that both India and New Zealand are part of CDRI, that is the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Not only that, it is New Zealand which signed the ISA recently, that is the International Solar Alliance. We become part of ISA. On other aspect, we have Memorandum of Cooperation of Earthquake Mitigation as well as on the climate change. So, we can see there are multiple cooperation area we are working and we are thriving upon. Now, what are the challenges between both the countries? So, in December 2024, what happened? A fringe element from a certain section that we call Khalistani group led a protest. They also went for a referendum calling for separation of Punjab from the India, which was basically objected by the Indians, and New Zealand being a multicultural country, as per the statement given by the New Zealand Prime Minister, they don't intervene or they don't import the domestic policies in their land. That's why they are not so much vocal about this referendum. However, Prime Minister Modi raised this issue with the Prime Minister of the New Zealand in open forum, right? Also, the free trade talk is quite stalled, which started in 2010 but stalled in 2015 due to India's high tariff on New Zealand's dairy and agriculture export. Obviously, for obvious reason, we want to protect our domestic market, because if you are not protecting our domestic market, our farmers, dairy agriculturists will be at loss. That's why we stall this project, free trade talk. Also, there are few trade concerns. For example, we heavily tariff the New Zealand in the tune of 17%. However, New Zealand is imposing only 2.3% tariff on us. So, we need to rationalize the tariff and we need to work on the free trade agreement, right? You will be amazed to know that China, which is having very not that good relation with the New Zealand, is having very flourishing trade with whom? With New Zealand, right? They are more than 15% with respect to the Indian trade, right? So, we can see the difference between the India and China, and how there is a huge scope for the New Zealand to invest in India, because we got the similar population vis-a-vis China, even more than the population, which is quite good, having good paying capacity, right? So, that's why they need to explore. Also, we need to work on the innovation, technology and sustainability, and we will need to deal with our geopolitical differences as well before coming on the talk of the table, right. These are the areas of the conflict. Now, what are the convergences? We have recently seen ICC Champions Trophy, and we won the Champions Trophy. You might, if you follow the cricket, you might be known. We won it very with good margin. You might be remembering this Glenn Phillips catch, one of the famous catch of the recent time. So, the sports is a common link between New Zealand and India, be it cricket, be it hockey or any other Olympic sports, right. And we are also celebrating 100 years of sporting contact between India and New Zealand in 2026, right. So, it will be a milestone in terms of the sports culture, right. Diwali stamps was released in 2011 by the New Zealand. 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi was also celebrated. Means overall there are huge opportunities to improve the trade relation, defense cooperation and people to people connection between India and New Zealand, but we need to work upon the low hanging fruit first, and low hanging fruit lies in the convergences that we have discussed recently. Now, what is the way forward in? So, basically I was listening to the interview of the New Zealand Prime Minister. He himself said that the Indo-Pacific has three nodal points. One is the western flank, and the center of this western flank is Dubai. Second is the middle flank, and middle flank is Mumbai, and there is a eastern flank which is Auckland. So, we need to on the same page in the Indo-Pacific if you want to join all three dots, right. So, what is needed? More bilateral and multilateral cooperation in the Indo-Pacific in order to either counter the China or increase the cooperation. Also, as rightly said by the Prime Minister Modi, we are front up in relation with the China, which is a very common word for the rugby, which is quite popular in the New Zealand, right. Also, we need to relook, reinvest and reinvigorate with relation of New Zealand. That is the key, that is the 3R of the relation: relook into the past, reinvest into the present and reinvigorate for the better future. That is all on the India-New Zealand relation. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Now, there is a practice question. First, it says examine the significance of India-New Zealand relation in context of the shared democratic values, trade, defense cooperation and disaster management. And what are the challenges hindering the full potential of their bilateral ties? We have discussed the challenges. Next question is, with the free trade agreement talk between India and New Zealand have faced several challenges, critically assess the reasons for the stalled FTA negotiation and the potential benefit if agreement is signed. These are the questions you can attempt and share your answer with us. We will try to look into the quality of your answers as well. Thank you so much.